All right, welcome back to Strategically Social. In this episode, I want to talk about some of the work that goes into being on social media, into managing your persona or your profile on social media. Because I often feel like we're using social media sort of for our entertainment and for this kind of loose sense of connection or networking with people. But we don't often stop and think about all of the mental work and energy that's being expended. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about some of that work in three aspects. The first is the cognitive work that goes into decoding someone else's intentions. The second is all the mental and noise filtering that we need to do when we're, for example, scrolling in our feeds. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is the kind of self-censorship that we have to employ when we're commenting or interacting with other people's posts. So let's start with the cognitive work of decoding someone's intentions. Imagine that you post something that's intended to elicit more of a stronger emotional reaction in people, something a little bit more personal. And people are starting to react to your post, and for the most part, they're giving it hearts. But then all of a sudden, somebody gives it a like. Now, this raises a question in your mind. Why did that person simply give you a like rather than a heart? Is there some hidden meaning or intention behind this? Do they not care about you enough? Maybe they've been giving you a lot of hearts lately, and they feel like one more would just be a little bit too much. Meanwhile, you see another person's post with similar content to yours, and you notice that that person that gave you a like on your post has now given a heart to this other person's post. So of course this is just a simple example of what I'm talking about, but you can see how your emotional state is starting to become manipulated or triggered. And typically with the sheer volume of content that you're both seeing as well as posting yourself, you can imagine the emotional roller coaster ride that you're being taken on while you're using the platform. And I don't know about you, but just this first point that I'm making here, this seems to really create an emotional and cognitive burden that we have to constantly work at and untangle. Let's move on to point number 2, mental filtering and noise. Simply scrolling down on your newsfeed, on your wall, that's a ton of mental work. Not only are we having to sift through tons of content, group posts, news articles, emotionally charged video, but again, we're also being taken on that emotional roller coaster just due to the wide variety of content that's all presented in this kind of scrolling or flowing manner. So we might see a video, a very sad video about a child who has cancer, followed by a silly cat video or something that's more like a meme. Is this healthy for us in such a short span of time to swing through this wide range of emotions? Of course, sure, we're somewhat accustomed to this just from television and its advertising and in movies with plot lines shifting through their various emotions and dramas. But I think it's a little bit more here of a matter of scale. This is what I call noise, the sheer volume of content that we're scrolling and sifting through. And for one thing, deciding what we want to focus on, what we want to filter out, and then actually interacting with it, trying to determine how we emotionally feel about it. Or even worse, simply being affected by it subliminally. Now moving on to the final point here, which is self-censorship. We're responding to people's posts, or maybe they comment on one of our posts and then we are responding to their comment, all the while trying to keep in mind our professional or our personal relationships, the status of them, and what's appropriate or inappropriate to say. And again, yes, we do this in the real world too, of course, right? We're not going to talk to our employer the same way that we talk to our best buddy or somebody that we've known our whole lives. But when we're engaged in this on a social media platform, we're really doing it to the hilt. We're both doing a ton of it, and we're also doing it in sort of a public space. So not only do we have to consider the way that we're responding to the particular person that we're addressing, but also we have to consider how other people, random people, people that we don't necessarily know or know that well, might perceive our interaction on that post or that comment. And I do think that there are, of course, people that post anything and don't really care about how they come across. But this lack of self-censorship can often backfire on them, whether they're made aware of it or not. So the whole intention of this episode was just to highlight the fact that when you're on a social media platform, like Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, whatever, consider all the work that you're actually doing, whether or not you're really conscious of it or not. The cognitive load, the decision-making, the filtering, the emotional roller coaster you're being taken on, and really think about whether that impacts your mindset or not. If you got anything from this episode, please go ahead and subscribe so you can be made aware of the next episode. See you next time.